Hey guys, my name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Today the Forgotten Races review takes a step into the overpowered. We're going to talk about the Munavri, first seen in 2015's Occult Bestiary, also appearing again in Bestiary 6. Don't forget guys, time is running out on this channel's Hero Forge giveaway. By the time you guys see this, there'll only be a few hours left before the giveaway ends. We'll announce the winner of the giveaway on Wednesday's video. If you'd like a free custom tabletop miniature, and of course you do because it is both free and tailor-made to your needs, the link is in the description. Now let's get down to business. So normally this is the part of the video where I would talk about some creature from Earth mythology or some long-lost monster that people have claimed to see. Today, not the case. We've seen plenty of mythological beings live underground, anything from dwarves and goblins, all the way up to the Underdark from Dungeons & Dragons, where we've got drow, drougers, Fyrneblins, things like that, and the Munavri slots right in there, as a native of Paizo's Underdark equivalent, the Darklands. So far as I can tell, the Munavri is a creation entirely Paizo's. Physically speaking, they have similar physical proportions to humans, but their skin is milky white, probably from, living deep under the surface of the earth, and they have lavender or pink eyes and white hair. This combined with their, what people would call quote-unquote crazy ability scores, leads me to believe that the Munavri are descendants of Paizo's Aslanti. We'd be here all day if we were talking about the rise and fall of the Aslanti Empire, Earthfall, the culture shattering, all that. Suffice it to say, the Aslanti were an ancient race of extremely powerful humans, so powerful, to quote my Inner Sea World Guide, unlike a typical human, a pure-blooded ancient Aslanti gains a +2 bonus to all 6 ability scores. In a non-metagame fashion, the easiest way to pick out a pure-blooded Aslanti individual was his purple eyes. Of course, the Aslanti existed long before the present events of what's going on in Golarion, but I think it's a reasonable assumption to assume that the Munavri are the result of the Aslanti escaping their destruction, fleeing deep into the Darklands, and over time evolving into an entirely different race. The Munavri live in a place called the Sightless Sea, underneath the Arcadian Ocean, in one of the lowest reaches of the Darklands. These guys sail violet-sailed, intricately carved ivory ships and are great at fighting lightless naval battles, oftentimes against the Erdefin, Aboleth, Shoggoth, all the evil stuff you find in the Darklands. Essentially, this is one of the very few strictly not evil-aligned races that lives that far under Golarion's surface. These guys are also telepathic with members of their kind, and they rarely speak aloud amongst one another. And they possess an uncanny ability to use and understand pretty much anything they handle, even if it was created by a long-dead culture or a culture which they've never had any contact, or if it is a super complex magical device. So let's get down to the character sheet. A Munavri takes a -2 to his strength score, but gets a +2 to everything but his dexterity, to which he receives a +4. These guys are medium creatures with a base speed of 30 feet and dark vision out to 120 feet. A Munavri is able to communicate telepathically with other Munavris and can instantly learn how to use almost any device. They can cast object reading at will, and once per day can select one weapon, suit of armor, or spell trigger item on which they've cast object reading. For a number of minutes equal to their level, they are considered proficient with that item, or can make use of the spell trigger device as if they were a spellcaster of the appropriate class. Munavri also have spell resistance equal to 8 plus their number of class levels. So that's spell resistance 9 at first level, spell resistance 28 at level 20. Munavris live deep underground, and as such, they suffer from light blindness. Munavris begin play speaking their native language of Munavri. With high intelligence scores, they can choose from the following: Aklo, Aboleth, Aquan, Darkfolk, Draconic, Terran, and Undercommon. Now normally I rail against the choice of languages pretty hard. This actually makes sense to me. These guys live at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the Darklands, and many of them probably go their entire lives without ever seeing the light of day, which probably is better for them considering that hurts their eyes. Though it is perfectly reasonable to assume that an adventurer was raised on the surface and just is constantly dazzled, and maybe then they learn to speak common, regional languages, Dwarven, Elvish, whatever you want to give them. If we're playing a strict Darklands adventure, yeah, by all means, adhere to this one. Now, most people that I've come across in forums and the like will say this race is too powerful to be played as a PC. It does say that despite having no racial hit dice, their CR is 1 higher than a human of the same level. I just don't see why that's the case. Yeah, they get a +2 to almost all their stats, and their dexterity does start at a +4. But even then, a +2 only constitutes a further +1 on stuff. In my opinion, that's just not that crazy. If we're doing something like a 15-point buy, the +2 to an ability score, which translates into a +1, really doesn't make him that overpowered. And if we're rolling for stats, unless you just roll 6 straight 18s, and if you did, well, personally, I call cheaty on you, a +2 is just not going to put you into the realm of the overpowered. Again, this is only a +1 on ability checks, attack rolls, saves that are dependent on this stat. Perhaps if every single solitary stat, including strength, was a +4, okay, yeah, maybe I could start to think that this is a little too powerful, and your average min-maxer is going to have plus way more than 2 to whatever stat they need as they go adventuring, buying their magic items to buff their strength, dexterity, spellcasting modifier, whatever it is they need to buff. So a further +1 really ends up just being a drop in a bucket that doesn't tip the balance into something that is, as many people say, overpowered. Also, we have to consider the light blindness weakness. Abrupt exposure to bright light, aka somebody casting the light cantrip in your face, blinds you for 1 round. As long as the Munavri remains in areas of bright light, which is outside anything short of an overcast day or in the forest, they're taking a -1 penalty on attack rolls and perception checks, which, if we made something like a Munvari fighter using his strength score, is just going to push his attack rolls further down. And even if you made a Munvari dual-wielding, agile, whatever weapons you want to give him, the -1 penalty makes, for the purposes of his attack rolls, as if he only had a +2 to his dexterity. His sight-based perception checks are likewise affected, so the +2 to wisdom he receives is negged out. But what about that first round when he's blind? In that round, he takes a -2 penalty to his armor class, loses his dexterity bonus to AC, his best stat, and takes a -4 penalty on most strength and dexterity-based skill checks and on opposed perception checks. All checks and abilities that rely on vision automatically fail, and all opponents are considered to have a 50% miss chance. Also, a blind creature has to make a DC 10 acrobatics check to move faster than half speed. If he fails it, he falls prone. So Munavris are really only as overpowered as the amount of flashy lights in their face. If you're a GM and you've got a player who is just bound and determined to play a Munavri, all you need to do is make 5 casters with the light cantrip and just pop that in his face over and over and over again. You've shut him off. Yes, he has spell resistance, but you just cast the lights on something in front of him, be that a chair, be that a table, be that one of his allies, be that anything at all, as long as you are not specifically targeting the dude with spell resistance. In this one's humble opinion, yeah, the Munavri is sweet, and I would be happy to play or GM for one, but I really don't think the Munavri is as overpowered as many people make them out to be. But of course, this is just one man's opinion. What do you guys think about this thing? Is it too powerful? Is it not powerful enough considering its Aslanti heritage? The most important question, however, would remain, would you play this thing / would you GM for this thing? Let me know all about it in the comments and we'll keep the conversation going. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next race review drops next Monday.